Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to today's video. Hope you had a great day in the market. Sadly, no trades for us today. Basically, we did see some good opportunities which I'm going to talk about, but those opportunities didn't present themselves to over an hour into the day, and once I've already been sitting at the computer for an hour once the market's opened and haven't traded, that's sort of a warning sign for me that today is probably not the day to trade. So when I saw these, I just kind of played them in my mind, played them on paper, and they both worked out actually really good. So I'm going to talk about them today, and then I'm going to also talk about VLRX, which is the stock we were watching. And but yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. So there are some good points to get out of this video, and hope you stay around for it. And if you do enjoy it, please give this video a like. It's always appreciated. So let's talk about those three stocks. So I'll just quickly show you as well. Shares traded, none. So you just see how no shares traded today, but VLRX was the stock we was looking at this morning out of the gates. You see how we got this lovely gap on the daily chart up to 560. There's also a little gap here at 480. So we just mark out those areas, and what happened exactly. You see pre-market for VLRX. VLRX was on the gap scanner, good pricing. OBLN was also on the gap scanner, but this was the main one. I believe everyone was watching because OBLN was just a $1 stock. This was a lower float stock. I think it was about 3.2 million in the end after a recent reverse split. Good price range, and and had some pre-market volume as well. So you see how this got filled pre-market. This gap area at 560. So we've got to be wary that now this gap has already been filled. However, they don't show on a daily chart until the market is actually open, so until it gets filled in during the market hours. So you can see now even on the daily chart that gap still exists. So we were looking for a retest of that gap. Just before the open, you see we got to a high of 538, and you see it's around this 530 area. That's where I allocated my shares. So I actually am down on the day. I allocated about $9 worth of shares, so it is what it is, but this was a good time to allocate because I definitely thought we'd get up to that 560 area and then get the sell-off. But sadly, if you look at this here, just as soon as the market opens, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red candles in a row. That's each candle represents 1 minute. So in six minutes, it went from a high of 520 down to a low of 354. So that's a $1.70 move, and if you manage to capture any of that, you're absolutely laughing. What a crazy move, and especially for this price range in 6 minutes. It actually went a lot lower as well. It's now down, a low to almost the 260 area. So absolutely crazy move on VLRX, and I just couldn't get an entry unless you chase it. Some people would have chased this and got lucky. On another day it would stop and bounce because this is a parabolic short. It's just not common. So good luck, well done to any guys that got that, because I couldn't find an entry to get in once it started just tanking hard. But the two entries I did see was on two plays I did see was one was on TAIT. Once again, going to the chart, we see here, I'll delete this 450 quickly, but you just see there's a gap up to 539 there. Why? Because that closed there and then it opened up here. So there's got that gap, and then here there's a gap, a small gap here. You see how it closed here on this candle at 433, and the high of this next candle was 428. So still a small gap, but a gap nevertheless. And this is today where it filled that gap. So we're keeping those areas on watch. Ideally, I wanted a 533, but you just see what happened here. I was literally shutting up shop, and TAIT come up on the scanner as it's halted. You see when it got halted, it didn't get halted here until 10:33. So once again, as I said, over an hour into the day. So I quickly mark out those levels and just see if they come into play and see how the stock moves. Really a bit wary of this stock because no real volume, and then all of a sudden bang, gets halted, and then you see it dies off. So you could say it's a pump and dump really, but nevertheless we could still trade it, and more from the short side. So when it opens, what happens? It opens up flat and then sells off hard. I thought that would have been it, but we get a retest we get a break of higher day, and where do we get to? You see here, it exactly gets to 450 on these candles, and I see it on the level 2 how 450 becomes major resistance. Really hard. The longs will find it really hard to break 450. So it retraces, tries it again, fails, and then on this one here, it breaks, but then it instantly fails. And you see how the candle actually turns red. This would have been a perfect entry short. And as I said, I did see it in real time, didn't allocate shares. I always be honest when I say where I saw it in real time or where I didn't, but you can see here perfectly. And I would actually just risk off down to $4. It did go down to this 369 area eventually, but you just see how that was a perfect entry. And you just risk, you know, if you get in at 4.45, you could risk 15 cents of higher day, and you look to sell at $4. That's a 3-to-1 profit loss or risk reward. And yeah, you see how actually it went all the way down to 369. The thing you have to sell this quickly because there's really not any volume, but you can see how that play was pretty simple, especially hindsight is very, very simple. But once again, I just wasn't feeling today because I said I'd already been in the market for over an hour and I basically was already done. And then the last one was OBLN. OBLN made this crazy. This was on the gap scan, actually at the top of the list, but given the price range, it just wasn't of interest. You see, there's this gap here at 147. So once it started to move, and you see here what the time it starts to really bounce around. So market open, you see how it's gapped up, but really choppy. Yeah, it had a high there, but really choppy. Pretty much sold off, consolidated, and then you see here it makes this big move and actually gets halted, and that's not until what's this time frame here? 10:52. So you know, pretty much an hour and a half into today. And this is just a thing I want to show you guys. You see right here where it gets halted at 106. You see how it gets halted there at 106, and this opens up and gets a low of 107. So there's actually a gap there, and even though it's only a 1 cent gap, it's still a gap nevertheless. So that's great to see, because when you've got a gap on the daily chart at 147, you want to see that get hit, and then you look for that to become a reversal. And where can it go to? You look at that 106 area, and it actually comes directly in play today, which is perfect. Sadly, the entry was a bit harder on this one because it never got to 147. But once you got the rejection, you could have played off that maybe the 150 would have been your stop. And you see how once it faded off and it sold off. You see right on this candle here, where did it go to? I'll just zoom in quickly. You see how it is literally touched on this candle, 106. So that would have been your entry, say at the 140 area. I made up a little mark around, it was like this area here. So basically that would have been your sort of, this area would have been your main target area. Looking at these candles, when we couldn't get the break there of the 143, that would have been a good place to get in, but not the easiest, even with hindsight, to get in on that stock. But certainly you could have used that 147, that 150 as your stop, and then you could ride it down to the VWAP or even the 106 area. And it actually did sell off more. It went down to a low of 82. But once again, as I said, I was just watching, playing it in my mind, seeing it, playing it with the charts, just watching how the price action moves. And that's it for today. So still learnt a lot. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And we don't have to trade every day. It took over an hour to eventually see some sort of setups, and those aren't going to be your best days. So anyway guys, I hope you had a great day. Catch you tomorrow. Bye bye.